Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel, All Things Taylor, just in time for a brand new wicked Q&A Wednesday with yours truly. I am super excited, so excuse me one second. I just got done outside doing a really awesome workout and working with a couple dogs. So Taylor Hendrix is tired, y'all. Tired. I think with like everything that I juggle all the time, guys, I think tired has become like a personality trait. I laugh all the time because I'm always so tired. And so I think of myself like Sophia from Golden Girls, where she's like, picture it, Sicily. It's like, when the last time Taylor got a good night's sleep? Picture it, Sicily. 1927. I don't know. I think it all started after like being on the road since I was 17 for wrestling. So I'm just used to being awake all the time. I don't recommend it. Anyways, let's get right into this week's Q&A Wednesday. I am super stoked. I decided to change up the banner, and this week for Q&A Wednesday, I'm actually using my podcast banner from Talks with Taylor Hendrix. Yay! And I've noticed in quite a few of my videos, I've been like fiddling with my bangs. I'm still not used to them, and I don't think that the person that cut them like did it properly. So I would love to get you guys' opinions on whether or not you like my bangs. So make sure you comment below. Alright, let's get right into these questions this week. There were quite a few of them, and a couple were actually duplicates that were, funny enough, the Taylor Army is so in tune, I love it. A couple of these questions were not only asked on my YouTube channel, but were also asked on my Twitter. So I was like, y'all are just so awesome. You keep like connecting, and I think it's really cool because you guys called yourselves the Taylor Army, and I think it's really cool to see my fan base become like a community, and you guys like talk to each other and interact with each other in the questions that I ask and stuff. I don't know, it's just so cool to me. I don't think any other wrestler really has that, and it's just so awesome. So savage. Okay, so this first question is one of the ones I just said where you asked it on my Twitter and my YouTube channel. I was asked, where did the name Taylor Hendrix come from and why did I choose to use it, so forth and so on. This is something I cannot take credit for, guys. I've talked about this a little bit because it's been asked before, but I figured I would answer it again for all of my new subscribers. P.S. Shout out to the 300 new subscribers that I got in the last couple weeks. You guys are in for a quick, crazy, awesome, wild ride. So the name Taylor Hendrix came about because when I first started wrestling, I had this gothic character, which is really hilarious because, you know, my gimmick pretty much came full circle and I ended up back in like some sort of gothic character known as Taylor Hendrix. Well, I wasn't originally Taylor Hendrix, and I decided that at that time, I was very new, I wanted to break away from this gothic character and do sort of another gimmick that was another like facet of my personality, you know. So I wanted this hippie sort of character, but not something that was dated. I wanted something that was more modern pop culture, something that could be more relatable as opposed to a typical 1960s, 1970s hippie. So I was, you know, just throwing ideas out there. At the time, there was already this amazing wrestler who had somewhat of a hippie gimmick. She was amazing. I got to wrestle her once, and that is an experience I'll never forget. Her name was Daisy Hayes. So I already knew that she had so much more credibility than me, and she'd been around a lot longer than me. She was in like the first Shimmer and stuff. Like, she's amazing, amazing woman. And so I knew I had to be different than that, right? You know, you don't want to be a carbon copy of somebody else, especially for someone else who's still in the business. And a referee who was also a booker for one of the home promotions, who's actually still a referee to this day on the East Coast, he heard me talking. And so one day, I guess he was home with his girlfriend and they were just hanging out together. And all of a sudden he goes, Taylor Hendrix. And he said he got the idea because while him and his girl were hanging out, Jimi Hendrix popped up on their station of whatever they were listening to. And he was like, that sounds awesome. And so the very next show that I'm booked on for this promotion where he is the booker and referee, he shoots the name on me without even telling me. He does my whole announcing thing, and the announcer announces me as Taylor Hendrix. And what's really hilarious about that is I wasn't ready for the transition yet. I was wearing this dark purple fishnetty top that I had bought at like a store, and not even like a good store either. And then I was wearing these wrestling pants that were not cute at all, guys. Just not. They were supposed to be like my own version based off of this really cool outfit that I saw Angelina Love wear in TNA. And they just were not cute on me, guys. And it was just awful. I was wearing kick pads, which is hilarious because after that, I was like, I hate seeing girls wear kick pads, and I never wore them again. And he shot the name on me, and it pretty much stuck after that. And I slowly after that made my transition into this bright neon color wearing, Goonies Never Say Die, one girl revolution, Taylor Hendrix. And I was that gimmick for years until shortly after TNA. So that really stuck. And what's really funny is that name grew right along with me. It's really, really funny. But yeah, I can't take credit for that. That is that referee back on the East Coast. He came up with that and shot it on me, and I was that ever since. And my first time breaking into Ring of Honor back in the day when they still had like Sarah Del Rey, Cesaro was there, Chris Hero, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Austin Aries, Colt Cabana, just so many crazy, crazy talented people. And I'm breaking into there for the first time as this green girl in like 2009, right? And Bobby Cruz, the ring announcer, goes, your name's Taeler Hendrix. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, where are you from? Oh, I'm from New Bedford, Massachusetts. And he goes, oh, nobody knows where that is. Nobody who's not a hardcore wrestling fan doesn't know where New Bedford is. And I was like, okay, well, what about Boston? Everybody knows Boston. He's like, no, it's too cliche. And he goes, Hendrix, Hendrix, Hendrix. Hey, everybody, where's Jimi Hendrix from? And somebody goes, Seattle, Washington. And he goes, all right. You are now Taeler Hendrix from Seattle, Washington. And that's how I started being billed from Seattle, Washington. And with the name Taeler Hendrix. So that's really fun. I don't know, that makes me smile because it's just a story that I know that grew right along with me in the business. Someone on my YouTube channel asked me if there were any wrestling games that I played growing up that kind of helped lead to me wanting to be a wrestler. The answer is no. I'm sorry. No. Like I've told you guys before, I had a very old school upbringing, very 1970s upbringing, even though I grew up in the 90s. So, you know, I had the go outside and play, don't bother us until we call for you. And once we call for you, your butt better be getting in that door. Go outside and play, use your imagination, stuff like that. I didn't really grow up with a lot of video games. And once we did get the video games, like we got a PS1, I think after like the PS2 was getting ready to come out. So we were very late. And my sister and I didn't even have a memory card. So we were legit playing the same levels over and over, hoping to get further and further. And then later on we ended up getting some memory cards, excuse me. But, so anyway, at that time I was already a huge wrestling fan, even though I really wasn't allowed to watch it. And my family had not given up that fight on that just yet. They were getting ready to be like, okay, fine, if you want to watch it, whatever. And so one of my high school friends' little brother decided that he had outgrown wrestling and he did not want this video game anymore. And his sister, who I was friends with, that I played softball with on the varsity team, she goes, hey, my little brother wants to know if you want this because he knows you like wrestling. And I was like, yes, totally. What is it? And lo and behold, it was probably the only wrestling game I've ever owned personally in my younger days. And it was WWF SmackDown 2. And what's awesome about that game is the fact that my little sister, who doesn't like wrestling, would play that with me. And she had like the craziest good taste for a kid that didn't watch wrestling and didn't like wrestling. She would always pick Kane, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, and like, I don't know, just these insanely talented men to play in the game. And I'm just like, and you don't even like wrestling, like you're crazy into it. And it was really funny because I would always pick Road Dogg because I always liked his entrance music. And I used to get in such trouble because every time, you know, my sister and I didn't even know how to play it. So we're just pressing all kinds of buttons, hoping for the best, you know, get that signature move in or whatever. And anytime I would get something really good in on her and she would get so mad and I would just be like, oh, you didn't know? And then my mother would like yell from like the other room, don't you finish that sentence, Taylor. It was so awesome. And so I remember one time on Twitter, I actually, you know, put out a tweet about that game. And I remember Beth Phoenix commenting back that she would go up against me and she called Road Dogg. And I was like, damn. I'll be S.A. Rios then. I don't know, just something random. So yeah, that was the first and one of the only games as like a kid that I actually got. My other wrestling games that I got to play wasn't until I was an adult. So I was very sheltered in that regard. But I always like that story. It's funny. My sister would get so agitated. Oh, you didn't know? Good times. Someone asked me if I would consider a WWE debut. I mean, I'm not against it. But for me, I'm just really focused on being the best version of me that I can be. I like being able to say that I've gotten all kinds of opportunities without needing the WWE banner. I think it's really cool that I was contacted back by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. back in the day when I was in Ring of Honor. Like, so many people like talk crap, and I tried to combine crap and trash, so it's like trash. A lot of people talk crap about, you know, my tweets about that, and talk trash about me, saying how I should just stay in my lane as like a valet and wrestler or whatever, or, like, just like crazy amounts of hate. And what's hilarious about that is, like, even though they thought I couldn't do it, I was still like, I still got a response back from casting, which I think is just amazing. Like, that's really cool. And I didn't have to go to WWE to do that. I am now a published author who just celebrated my 1 year anniversary with my first children's book, It's Not Easy Being a Sloth by Taylor Hendrix. And, you know, I'm getting featured in like Yahoo Finance, and I'm a wrestling writer for Fightful.com, a podcaster for Vince Russo, and all these amazing other projects that I can't wait to tell you guys about. I can't wait. I'm not allowed to yet, but I can't wait. And just to be able to say that I did it all without, you know, WWE, I think is really cool, because, you know, when you have like the WWE banner pushing for you, it opens a lot more doors than when you're doing it on your own. So I'm just really proud. So I think that's what I'm focused on more than anything. But I mean, if the right deal comes a knocking. And then another person asked me on my YouTube channel if I would consider doing an Impact Wrestling return. A lot of people think that door is like permanently shut, but it's not. Back when I was in Ring of Honor, Madison Rayne reached out to me for a Knockouts Knockdown pay-per-view position that they wanted me for, but unfortunately I was trying to show Ring of Honor that I was like 100% committed to Ring of Honor, and so I told her that, you know, I was actually booked for Ring of Honor. But it's really cool to think that if I would have said, hey, Ring of Honor, I can't do this date, I'm gonna go do Impact, like, I don't know, it could have been really cool. That same exact date, I also had 2 other bookings. One of them was on the East Coast for Beyond Wrestling. I could have wrestled, I think it was Thunder Rosa. And then the other booking I had was out in the deep Midwest, and it was to wrestle Taya Valkyrie, and Gail Kim had actually messaged me about it because the promoter knew Gail Kim, and he wanted me to wrestle Taya Valkyrie. So I'm like, oh man, that day had so many amazing opportunities. And what did I end up doing that day? I just sat on commentary for 1 match, and I was just like, oh. But you know, you live and you learn. You never really know, you know what I'm saying? So it's neither here nor there. That's all hindsight. But yeah, so that's what I think. Like, people like to think like I'm like some negative Nancy. I'm really not. I say the more wrestling, the better. I love wrestling. I want to see wrestling do well, and the quality of wrestling, you know, be better, and the environment be better and stuff, you know. So I'm all about those positive vibes. So I mean, I'm not opposed to an Impact return. It just has to make sense for me and my brand and everything that I've put into, you know, my career thus far. Especially when you think about just how hard wrestling is on the body. It's a lot of wear and tear, guys. Someone on my YouTube channel asked me that since I rescue animals, I foster animals, and I work with a lot of animals, have I ever come across like a really large fluffy Akita dog, which is a breed of dog for anybody that doesn't know? The answer is no. I have not had a chance yet to work with any Akitas. It's not that I don't want to, I just haven't had that opportunity yet. And I also haven't really seen any in shelters all the times that growing up as a kid that I would volunteer at shelters. So I think that's just not as common a breed as people think, maybe, or just maybe in the areas that I've lived, I'm not sure. Let me see. Someone asked me on my YouTube channel, what's my favorite part of summer? Well, I can tell you what my favorite part of summer is not, and it is all the darn sunscreen. I should probably be an investor in a sunscreen company, because I pretty much bathe in that stuff all summer long. I remember the first time I went to a beach in Northern California, I ended up with sun poisoning. I had sunscreen on pretty much everywhere. Even my makeup that day had sunscreen in it. And the one place I did not put the sunscreen was my feet and my lower ankles. And that's where I got a sunburn. And it was so gnarly. I got sun poisoning, and it was one of the worst experiences I think I would rather have chicken pox. And like chicken pox was awful. I had that when I was little. I think I would rather have chicken pox than sun poisoning. Sun poisoning, you're boiling hot and freezing cold. It hurt to have the sheet of the bed, like at the hotel, like touch my skin. It was so awful. And the very next morning, I had to fly to the East Coast to go wrestle for Beyond Wrestling for WWR, Women's Wrestling Revolution. And I had like an 18-minute match with Sonya Strong. And what's crazy cool is I've actually posted clips of that on this YouTube channel, and you guys wouldn't have guessed that I had sun poisoning, and I totally did. And that ended up being Sonya Strong's first like 15-minute plus match, and it was really cool because she didn't tell me that until after the fact, and I was like, oh wow girl, like there was only a couple little fudge ups. Other than that, you were awesome. So that was really cool. So I don't know what my favorite part of summer is, but I can tell you that is what it is not. Whew. Someone asked me on my YouTube channel, it was kind of an interesting question. They were basically asking me, can I imagine working for WWE and waking up one day and realizing that you're released? I think this is pretty much indicative of a lot of the releases that have been being announced publicly that have caught a lot of fans by surprise. That's what I'm assuming this question stems from. The answer is, I can relate to this question a lot on a smaller scale because I was signed to Impact Wrestling back in the day when they were on Spike TV, drawing anywhere from 1 million to 2 million viewers per episode on Spike TV. I think Spike is now Paramount TV, something like that. They changed their name, but it's still Spike TV, basically. Owned by Viacom, I think. You know, I was very like unhappy, and I was like back and forth on what I wanted to do. Did I want to resign? Did I not want to resign? I was sent resign papers in the mail, and even though I was adamant that I wasn't going to resign, I made a split last minute decision to sign the papers and resign for another year, hoping that, you know, I would finally get out of the developmental and, you know, get full-fledged on TV. And one day I'm at the gym doing physical therapy and a workout based on the physical therapy, and I get a call telling me that I'm released. So that came out of nowhere. I was like, yeah, but there's resign papers like sitting on the counter in my apartment like right now. Like what? Huh? So I can definitely relate to that and stuff that it's kind of a living reality nightmare, if that makes sense, because as a superstar, you understand that that's a possibility. And depending on how your contract is written, it can happen at any time and for no reason at all. Like in the contract that I had, it was very clear that I could be fired and released at any time, and I don't need to be given a reason. So I think this all goes back to a question someone asked a couple months ago of stuff that I would like to change in the business. And I think one of those is learning how to understand a contract so you understand what your responsibilities are as the talent and the company that you're signing to's responsibility as the employer. And understanding the umbrella of independent contractor and all these different things, because a lot of wrestlers make a lot of mistakes simply because we're not taught how to read these contracts. These contracts are written in a way that it makes you think it says one thing, but really it means something else. It's like a big magic trick. You know, they want you to say looking over here so you don't see what happens over here. Like that's the wrestling business. So those contracts are worded in ways for a reason, and so I can definitely understand that sort of hell. It's a living nightmare that every pro wrestler has to deal with when you are signed to a company, because once you sign yourself over, you don't necessarily have control of your brand anymore. You don't necessarily have control of how you're booked, how you're used, how you're viewed, where your voice comes from. You know, there's a lot of things that are no longer in your control, and that doesn't matter what company you work for. They all have contracts that are very similarly written because it's a successful formula. It works because people don't understand it. And so it works against the wrestlers and in the favor of the employers. So I would like to see that change, you know, and have a better education on those contracts. And actually a lot of NFL players say the same thing. They would like to have a better education on the contract that they're signing, what it means and why. Another person on my Twitter asked me my thoughts on something to do with John Cena and Taiwan. I don't have a response only because, and I'm sorry to say that I don't, but the reason why I don't is because I don't know what this is in regards to. So I'm assuming I must have missed something very big. I don't know what this is in regards to. I'm always so busy that there's a lot of stuff that I miss. So I'm assuming I missed something controversial. That's my that's what my gut instinct is telling me based on that question. So I'm sorry to disappoint. I don't know what that's in regards to. I could look it up maybe, but yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. Another person on my YouTube channel and funny enough on my Twitter asked me, with all the places I've gone to for traveling for wrestling, what have been some of my most favorite cities and towns? I loved, what did I love? I really liked Nashville a lot. I really loved that vibe. I don't know what it was, but every time I would get off the plane after landing in Nashville, I would just be like, I don't know what it is. I love Nashville so much. I really loved Louisville, Kentucky. Living there was awesome. Let me see. I really discovered a lot of really good music in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio, I went there when I was like 13, I think, and I really loved it. That was when I saw SLC Punk for the first time, which ironically enough is one of my all-time favorite movies. And you know, I bought a really awesome Slayer CD there, and oh man, just so much good vibes in Cleveland. I haven't been there in quite a few years. I think the last time I was really in Cleveland was maybe like 2012 or 2014, so it's been a while. I really liked different parts of Los Angeles that I went to. Northern California's been like pretty cool to me. Every time I've flown out there to wrestle, it's been really cool. Obviously Boston. Being from the East Coast, I love Boston. I'm really proud to be from Massachusetts. Let me see here. Cincinnati was kind of interesting. Toronto. I liked the little bit that I did get to see of Toronto. It was really fun, really pretty. Looked like there was a lot of fun stuff to do. Let me see here. Oh, Charlotte. I love Charlotte, North Carolina. You guys are awesome. I loved every time I got booked in North Carolina. I love Charlotte. Charlotte is so cool. Charlotte and Winston-Salem, not that crazy far from each other. Super cool place. Love it. They have some of the best brunch spots and stuff. Like super, super, super cool. Yeah, I would have to think. I've been to so many places, but with wrestling, like you're there and then you're gone. You don't really get to experience places like a normal tourist. Like in one weekend, I was in like 4 different cities to wrestle. So I didn't really get to experience them. So yeah, that's a hard question. Definitely hard, but I definitely loved Nashville. I did like a lot of different stuff in Memphis, Charlotte, Louisville, Kentucky, LA. I've never been to San Diego. That's on the bucket list. Definitely love to go there. I love a lot of different spots on the East Coast. Like I love Boston. I love New Hampshire and Maine and Vermont. Yeah. Oh, Dallas, Texas. You guys rock. I love Dallas. I had really good times in Dallas. Like super cool fans, super cool atmosphere. Dallas and Austin were really just like super cool people. Really, really cool people. I was definitely a really big fan of Texas. Let me see here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that one. That one's difficult. It's difficult. Okay, let me see.